you can pay for a master's in theology or don't have the time to do so, do this instead. Most of us have a deep desire to study the Bible and grow in our theology and grow in our biblical studies, but don't have the time or the money. That was me. So if you're one of those, hi, my name is Octavio, and I'm going to be your best friend. I graduated from Regent College with a master's in theological studies. And this video, the one you're watching right now, is the video I would have loved to watch before I started that journey. A lot of the power of a master's in theology resides on the books you read, on the authors you read. And part of the power of a master's in theological studies is that they point you to those books and point you to those authors that in many cases, like my case, I would have never heard about because they weren't part of my tradition. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's the case for you. So this is me pointing you to those great books and great authors, but not just pointing you, not just like mentioning those and just dropping those on your lap. I'm actually gonna make a plan for you today, yes, me today, that's gonna be separated in 3 years. So I'm making and I'm giving you a 3-year plan for free for you to grow in your biblical understanding and your theological understanding. This video might change your friggin' life. So from all the many books we had to read in our Masters in Theological Studies at Regent, and when I say many, I mean many. Like this was part of my first semester. All of this, plus the Bible and a bunch of other PDFs. So many PDFs. Out of those many books, I picked the obvious winners, the low-hanging fruit per se, the obvious picks. And so a bunch of those books I have a physical copy, but most of those books I have a digital copy. So if I have the book on a physical copy, I'm gonna show it to you. Otherwise, I'm just gonna show you a picture. This is a very doable plan that you could start right now. I'm filming this in 2022. You could start right now. You could start starting 2023. You know, 2023, 2024, and you would finish 2025. A brand new woman, a brand new me, a brand new person. So I really wanna emphasize and challenge you to follow the plan. Just believe me, follow the plan. This is gonna rock your world. You ready? So this is how your first year would look like. So the most important book you're gonna read, and the way every master's in theology should start is with the shack. You're kidding. The first thing you gotta do is we're gonna start with history. You have to know your history. Man, I didn't know how fascinating Christian history was. And especially if you do it with Justo Gonzalez, The Story of Christianity. This is volume 1. This is a great, very easy to read book. Justo is the bomb. But having said that, there is another option to cover both histories, you know, the whole history of Christianity, because you notice later, you have to read volume 2. On your second year, you're gonna read volume 2, which is this. But there is another option. I have options for you. There was one book, a book I couldn't recommend more. It's called A Nearly Infallible History of Christianity by Nick Page. That is a smaller book. It's like the size of this book. I don't have it now with me, but it's the size of this book. And that covers both of these books. What is so cool about that one? It's done in a funny and sarcastic way, yet in a very academic way. It's what you would have here, but with a sarcastic tone, written by a British guy. You know, British sarcasm. The other thing you should do is read throughout the Old Testament, top to bottom, you know, Genesis to Malachi, Malaquías in Spanish. So Old Testament and this one together. So if you're reading Genesis in the Old Testament, you're gonna read Genesis in this book. This book is called, as you can see, An Introduction to the Old Testament by Longman and Dillard. So this is not like a book. This is more like a text that you should read alongside the Old Testament. This is gonna take care of your Old Testament. You have to read the history and the Old Testament part throughout the years. So in 12 months, you should be done with your history and with your Old Testament. So you can pace yourself. You have 12 months to finish both. So alongside those two, you're gonna read 2 more this year. So in your first 6 months of the year, you're gonna read How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth by Gordon Fee. In the latter 6 months, you're gonna read Theology in the Context of World Christianity by Timothy Tennent. Both books, heavy hitters, like must reads for sure. So as you can see, we're not talking about many books. So history, Old Testament, and 2 books interspersed. If you have more time to read, you know, some people are like fast readers. What you can do is you can also read The Art of Biblical Narrative by Robert Adler. So that's gonna take care of your first year. Let's go with your second year. If you chose to read Justo Gonzalez, you would have to read volume 2. If you decided to go with Nick Page's book on history, then this is a moot point. So this year you have to start reading throughout the whole New Testament. New Testament throughout the whole year, easy peasy. And as you read every book of the New Testament, you know, Matthew, Mark, you're gonna read in parallel, introducing the New Testament, its literature and theology. You're gonna read them side by side, Matthew and then Matthew here, Mark and then Matthew here, and so on and so forth. That is easy. Second year gets easy, third year gets even easier. So you're gonna read that throughout the whole year. And then in the first 6 months of your second year, you're gonna read the New Testament and the People of God by Wright. I know this book has been criticized because this book should have been so much shorter, but the content is key still. And in the latter 6 months of the second year, you're gonna read For the Life of the World by Alexander Schmemann. A masterpiece of a book. And then if you have time, which you should because this is a shorter, you can read this book, The History of Christian Thought by Jonathan Hill. Absolutely yes. And now this is year number 3. Year of electives. This is an easier year, and you're gonna read these books in whatever order you like. So the first book is by Craig Blomberg, called Neither Poverty Nor Riches. And this book is gonna help you think through issues of money and tithing and offering, etc., etc. And the other book you're gonna read is by Miroslav Volf, called After Our Likeness, The Church in the Image of the Trinity. This book is theologically heavy, but it's really important in the sense that it tackles the ecclesiology and theology in the Catholic Church, in the Orthodox Church, and in the Protestant Church. And then we have this book by Jeremy Begbie, Beholding the Glory, Incarnation Through the Arts. This is gonna take care, not necessarily take care, but this is your artsy book. So this book takes into account music and sculpting and poetry and dancing, and must read. And then the last book is called Prophetic Imagination by Walter Brueggemann. So there you go. These are your 3 years of your pseudo masters in theological studies. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts, but even more excited to hear that you have actually taken the challenge to go through 3 years of transformation in reading and thinking biblically and theologically through this book. So if you're here by the end of this video, I know for sure that you're interested in theological studies. So check this video where I explain even more of what I've learned and the wisdom I've acquired during those 3 years of theological studies.